This week, we've got fresh announcements from Audio Control, now in the pro audio game. Diamond Audio releasing brand new motorcycle speakers. FORTIN coming up with a solution for the latest CAN bus problem. King Boxes introducing application-specific RGB illuminated enclosures. And veteran and sales pro Dan Bowman launching a new initiative to help dealers with their sales. This is CMA Live All Access, brought to you by SiriusXM and sponsored by 5 Axis Innovations. And it starts now. Well, if you're in the car audio game, then it is no secret that pro audio has certainly been one of those categories that just crept up on us. Who knew that it would be one of the hottest things to go in car audio today? Well, Audio Control has decided to come to the party and come in a big way. This week, they've introduced a brand new line of speakers, pro audio speakers, in fact, that they're dubbing will give you better sound quality, just like you are accustomed to from Audio Control. To get more information, we've got our specialist, Matthew Palumbo, standing by. Matt, welcome back to CMA Live. This is a big one because I'll tell you, who would have thought that Audio Control would be diving in to the pro audio category? Now, before you judge, we got to get the story on this because there are some specifics that you need to know. Matt, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Ben, we're super excited at Audio Control. I mean, we've wanted to do kind of something like this for a while now. We've been watching the trends. I mean, Audio Control's always been pretty good at paying attention to, what's out there, what people are asking for, what's popular. And like you mentioned, this category is just exploded in the last few years. As with a lot of products, we're not always the first to market because we like to kind of see, what's going on, what's popular, and what's going to work best. And something we've noticed is that there's really nobody out there talking about loudspeaker, pro audio, open air show type systems that sound good. It's just always about volume and loud. And, that's not Audio Control. We like to make things that, yes, get, seriously loud, but also sound really good. So we kind of have this tagline for this whole lineup that is street loud, studio clear. And that's really what we've tried to, keep close to heart while designing this whole lineup. And I think we absolutely nailed it.
All right, Matt, let's dig into the actual offering here. So what I see here is a brand new series of speakers. And when we talk about speakers, we're talking about mid-range drivers as well as tweeters with different options. So let's dive in. What exactly is the initial offering from this new Epic series of pro audio speakers coming to you from Audio Control?
Yeah, Ben, so at launch, the Epic Pro line really expands on what we've been doing with Epic lately. We brought out some great amplifiers. Of course, there's always been the legendary Epicenter bass processor, and now you have these Epic Pro speakers to go with it. So at launch, Epic Pro is 5 models. There is a 6-inch slim driver. There's a 6.5-inch standard depth mid-bass driver. There's an 8-inch mid-bass driver for those that want to get wild. And then on the high frequency side of things, we have a 3-inch Neo Pro tweeter and we have a 4-inch standard Pro tweeter. So it's a pretty complete offering at launch with more models to come in the future.
So Matt, just to dive a little bit deeper here, when it comes to pro audio, first of all, I have to say I'm a big fan of pro audio. I've seen the effect it has on a new generation of car audio enthusiasts, especially younger ones that really enjoy the volume as well as that kind of live atmosphere type of sound. But beyond that, there are certain characteristics that, define pro audio drivers to be pro audio drivers. So let's dive into a little bit about the design of these speakers. Maybe we'll break that out into the tweeter and then also the mid-range drivers as well. Let's talk about the characteristics, the physical characteristics that really make these excel in the pro audio category.
Yeah, Ben. So when it comes to, pro audio drivers in general, like you said, there's a few characteristics that usually kind of define a pro audio speaker. One is efficiency. Almost all pro audio drivers are super, super efficient. Now, generally that does come at the cost of, some low frequency output. And, we tried to minimize that as best we could. But when you look at most pro audio drivers, there's a couple of things to kind of choose between. Most of them use one of 2 very popular designs. They either have a dust cap or they have a phase plug. Both of them have their pros and cons. With a dust cap, you have more surface area, so there is a little bit more low frequency, there's a little bit more output, and the internals of the speaker, the voice coil, etc., are protected from external debris, dust, dirt, etc. But, it does have some drawbacks as well. So there are some companies that will use a phase plug, which kind of looks like a bullet in the middle of the speaker. That can minimize some cancellations from the cone, and it does give you some extended high frequency as well. But a lot of times then, because it is open in the middle, you now have the potential to get dust and debris, etc., inside the speaker, of course, which will cause damage or shorten its life, make weird noise, that sort of thing. So we spent a lot of time with R&D trying to figure out which was the best way to go. And what we developed was in-house in California, was our own design, which is more of a phase cap. So this is kind of the best of both worlds. It's more or less a dust cap that's shaped like a bullet in the middle. So it really gives us the best of both worlds. It's a really cool design. What we were shooting for here was a design that will give us everything that we're looking for, play loud, but still sound really good, and give us that super, super efficient pro audio style mid bass. So of course, like I mentioned, we have that in a 6-inch that's slim, a 6.5 that's a standard depth, and an 8-inch. That 6-inch slim is going to be, I think, a popular model. With a lot of folks these days, not just using these for open air show, but potentially putting them inside the vehicle as well. That will likely be a very popular speaker for us. And of course, with its shallower depth, it'll fit more places. And then on the tweeter side of things, we offer the kind of standard compression horn style tweeter. That's the 4-inch, and then the 3-inch Neo as well. Now that Neo, of course, uses a neodymium magnet, so it's a much slimmer design. It's much smaller. Neo magnets are very, very powerful. And then with that, it also gives us the flexibility to be able to, potentially put that tweeter inside of a vehicle as well. Again, we're kind of leaning into that idea that a lot of people are not just using these for big open air systems anymore. What we really did is design this to match up one tweeter for every 2 mid-range or mid-bass drivers, whether that's the 6-inch slim, the 6.5 standard, or the 8-inch. You can really kind of mix and match them and build your own system to suit. And at the end of the day, you'll end up with a system that's super, super loud, projects very far, but still maintains some, above average sound quality. And that's really what we were targeting.
All right, so there you have it. If you're tuning in, AUDIOCONTROL launching a brand new series of pro audio drivers under the Epic series. Now, on that topic of Epic series, we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention the recently launched Epic X series of subwoofers, which I feel would probably be a perfect match for these drivers. But hey, I'm no expert. I'll leave that to Matthew.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ben. The Epic X woofers really complement the rest of your Epic system. What these were designed to be is what we call a street bass woofer. So we know that when people want to get loud, usually that means a lot of abuse on a subwoofer. And traditionally speaking, most companies have gone the route of building it like a Mack truck. It's way overbuilt, it's heavy, it's brutal in its design, very industrial, which means it can handle a lot of power, but it also means that it takes a lot to make it move, right? It all comes at the expense of efficiency. So we kind of went our own way. And with the Epic X woofers, these are lightweight paper cones. They sound good. They get very loud. They come in an 8, 10, or 12-inch design, and they are dual voice coils as well. So you've got a few choices there. But our whole point with these was that you could mate them up with an Epic amplifier and most likely mate multiples. So if they're using like an Epic 2K, the 2000 watt mono, you could pair up to say 4 of the Epic X woofers and have a perfect match. That was really the whole idea behind these. And then on top of that, we really kind of crafted these to leave some room for error. So for those that do really drive their gear hard and tend to abuse things a little bit, we've tried to compensate for that and make a woofer that can really handle the rigors of everyday daily driving, abuse, SPL show-off type systems. So I think people will be very impressed when they hear an Epic X woofer. They are really, really impressive.
Matt, I couldn't agree more. Those Epic's amplifiers absolutely provide the power, and I'm really excited to hear what these speakers actually sound like in a car environment. Okay, new Pro Series drivers. We talked about subwoofers as well, so I may as well ask you the question: price point. What is the price point of all these new products, and where should everybody go to stay dialed in to all these new launches coming to you from AUDIOCONTROL?
Yeah, Ben, I think that's one of the great things about the whole Epic line of products is that an enthusiast can get into an Epic system for, less than the cost of a high-end set of component speakers traditionally. So with the Epic Pro speakers in particular, again, Audio Control does things a little bit different than most. So all of them come in pairs. So keep in mind, all these prices are per pair. But when we look at the speakers specifically, you're looking right around $100 for the 6-inch drivers, whether that's the 6 Slim or the 6.5-inch standard depth, and then a little over $100 for the 8-inch mid bass. When we talk about tweeters, the 3-inch Neos come just under $100 a pair, and the 4-inch standard tweeter comes in at about $40 a pair in the US. When we look at the subwoofers, again, these are the street-based subwoofers. These are the Epic X woofers. We have them in an 8, 10, and 12. They're all dual voice coil. The 8-inch woofers come in at just over $100, the 10s at about $135, and the 12s at right around $150. So for more info on any of these Epic products or anything from Audio Control, be sure to check out audiocontrol.com.
Are you looking for an audio display for your car audio shop? Look no further than 5-Axis. We specialize in audio displays, motorcycle displays, power sports displays, UTV displays. All our displays are custom designed to tailor with your needs. We go anywhere from custom graphics to custom LED panels to fabric posters right above. Visit us on 5AxisInnovations.com or check us out on Facebook or Instagram at 5-Axis Innovations. Or give us a call at 414-326-7162. Look forward to hearing from you.
When it comes to motorcycle audio, Diamond Audio has certainly been a key player in the market, but big news, guys, they have come up with some really cool and higher performance upgrades to their speaker lineup. We go now to their product development director, John Catalano. John, welcome to the CMA Live Show once again. We've got some cool products to show everybody, but let's talk a little bit about your role and what this has meant into developing categories like motorcycle audio.
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be able to develop new products. It's, you start with an idea and then you work it through all the process. We've been fortunate to be really on the forefront of the motorcycle audio trend and to look at what's transpired through the years and then become where we are and then take that and then step it up even more. So this is the culmination of a few years of development to improve and increase all of the things that are great about our motorcycle audio products.
Well, John, I got to say, just looking at the pure amount of gear that you have behind you lets me know that you've been really hard at work. But hey, let's get into it. Title of today's episode is Diamond Audio introduces new ultra performance speakers. So we're talking speakers, and more specifically, we're going to go through two lines of speakers. The first one we're going to talk about is the very popular HXM series, which is now being called the HXM Black series. John, walk us through a little bit about the progression from the original HXM and what we're going to be showing folks today.
All right, Ben. So we have the HXM, the original HXM here. It's a very nice driver, fully waterproof. It has, as you can see here, it has a secondary surround that actually keeps the voice coil waterproof. And then our titanium tweeter. So this was a great driver. Unfortunately, it was originally designed for marine. It happened to work in motorcycle. And the installer started migrating to use this over into the motorcycle world, and it worked great. It has LEDs, it lights up, but the drawbacks were that, again, it was originally designed for marine, so this has a spot for a grill. And unfortunately, in a motorcycle application, a lot of times these are underside mounted. So we had to come up with a gasket to kind of seal this off, which makes it a little bit cumbersome to install. So we looked at those things, and our feedback from the field was, we like these, but not all the motorcycle guys like that the cone is white. Some of the motorcycle guys don't care about the LEDs, so they don't even hook that up. So where could we improve on this to make it more for the motorcycle? And that's where the HXM Black comes in. So just quickly, a little side-by-side comparison. As you can see, the tweeter is 50% larger. It's made for flush mounting, or back mounting, I should say. We've gone from a poly cone to a carbon fiber cone. So all these things on the new driver increase efficiency, make it louder, increase the low end response. It doesn't have LEDs because a lot of the guys on the motorcycles don't care about that. They want the performance. So this is performance optimized. It's also lightweight because this is a fiber reinforced composite basket with a neodymium motor structure. So even the crossover and everything's inside here. You can almost see it through the grill there. So everything's self-contained. Makes installation easier, and the performance is increased. You get better sound, a lot extended low end, and a lot more dynamic range because you have twice the size tweeter in there. So huge performance upgrade for the guys that like the HXM. They're really going to love the HXM Black.
All right, so we're talking about the brand new, soon to be released HXM Black series, as John has mentioned. Already very successful with their previous generation, but the new one certainly has some big improvements. The big takeaways here, John, this is a new design that's optimized for installers, especially because it's a flush mount that you can, attach from the bottom and not have to have that gasket like you mentioned. A brand new cone material in carbon fiber, so we're going to expect better excursion, a little bit stiffer, more output. And of course, an oversized tweeter, which will also help with the higher end frequencies, and not to mention an overall lightweightness to it and shallow. I mean, this for sure, when I look at that speaker, John, it definitely screams motorcycle audio to me.
Yeah, so the drivers are optimized for the motorcycle, and with that being said, even this driver right here is perfect for the 24 up bikes because they're very difficult to work with. It's a lot shallower pod in the fairing, so these are very shallow drivers. So this could drop right in without having to really modify the bike in any way, and you get that performance upgrade. Even if you were doing this off, because they're efficient, even if you were using just the original factory power, if you didn't want to upgrade right away to add an amplifier, this is going to give you more output just from that factory. And these are all available in 2 and 4 ohm. So again, if you're just doing the factory upgrade, 2 ohm is what the factory speakers are. So you're going to get that full amplifier power.
Now, as mentioned at the top of the show, we are going to deliver 2 new series coming to you from Diamond Audio for motorcycle audio in particular. We just covered the up-and-coming HXM Black series, redesigned for Generation 2. Now let's go into the very popular classic Neo series, the MS Neo series. To be specific, we're going to be talking about, well, coaxials. That's right. MS Neo now coming to you with a coax format. But to get a little bit more information, I think John's going to show us the original one and see where it has evolved from there.
All right. So we kind of came on the scene in motorcycle audio with this coax horn, right? So mid-bass driver, horn loaded tweeter, biampable. So you can run the mid-range separate from the tweeter. Being field serviceable, so this diaphragm, because guys are pretty much on a motorcycle, it's on or off. There's no volume control. They just want it. They're either riding and it's jamming or it's off. So if you happen to take out the tweeter, you get a little too zealous with that volume control, you can just swap the diaphragm out, so you don't have to replace the whole driver. That makes it very convenient. So this is what kind of solidified Diamond as the motorcycle audio brand. This driver, our most popular driver. The drawback is this horn acts like, if you have it in a horizontal mounting, it's basically a basket, so it's not waterproof. So you have to be conscious of that. We came out with a membrane that you can go over that, but it's aesthetically it's not the best, right? So there's that, and then we went to the upgrade. If you wanted even more, these are fully waterproof, are MS Neo. So these drivers were, and still are, the pinnacle of what you could put on a motorcycle. The Neo motor structure, the carbon fiber cone. These have been copied by many other brands, but nobody copied them to make them better. They just copied them and tried to make them cheaper. So they're still the pinnacle on the market. But we looked at what could we do to improve them? Well, most of the time what they do is they match our Neo driver with this this separate tweeter, and then they make a grill or something to make it basically into a coax, right? They mount it here or off to the side or in a different spot to be able to pair these so you have full range. Well, of course, the logical thing to do is to put them together. So we have our MS Neo driver coaxial mounted with a brand new fully waterproof horn. So there's a membrane underneath this grill. So you get the performance of this and this together in one package. And you save a little bit of money, and the install is a lot easier because you don't have to cut the grill. You don't have to find a separate mounting point for the tweeter. These are also field serviceable, like I mentioned earlier. So it allows you to biamp this, which if you're using, let's say you're using our, our radio, you can utilize the internal power to drive the tweeter. And we have 2 ohm versions of these. So you can run this at 2 ohms to the head unit. So you'd have 50 watts RMS crossed over on the tweeter. And then you can save your amplifier power to run the mid-range. So very, very flexible installation options going with the coaxial but biampable style speaker. We're really excited about these. They sound amazing. It's really hard to grasp what a jump from the old ones to these are, because the old ones are so good and still are, and a lot of people will still use them because those are flexible. But if you just want an easy way to upgrade and have all the performance of those 2 drivers, this is the route to go.
I must say, John, very impressive and logical evolution for the MS Neo line. Love the new waterproof tweeter. Love the fact that they're field serviceable, which is very practical. And that biamp trick, hey, listen, we don't ever want to waste any resources or power on a motorcycle. So that is a great suggestion to be able to also use the power coming off your aftermarket source unit to be able to power that as well in a biampable configuration. All right, to wrap this up, we're talking new HXM Black Series, brand new MS Neo coax speaker. What are the timelines on these 2 new products, and where should people go to get more info?
Well, Ben, we're really excited to be able to tell you that these are landing as we speak. So they should be available by time this airs. I would highly recommend you go to diamondaudio.com, check out the specs, but I assure you, you will be pleased if you put these in any install that you decide that they're worthy.
Hey, Paul here with SiriusXM, and I'd like to talk to you about attachment selling and why the SiriusXM product is one of the best things to add, especially since we don't trade dollars with any other category. I could go through all of this, but let's hear what some of our dealers have to say.
It's an easy add-on that takes, 10, 15 minutes if we're running an antenna, 1 minute if we've got an adapter to plug it into the factory SiriusXM antenna, and it's extra money, so no brainer.
I present it to every customer because a lot of customers don't know what all they can do with Sirius. They don't know what all content they could have. It just makes too much sense not to sell it.
It creates a different customer loyalty and customer security when you explain to them why it's a better experience. Just gets them back in the door. And then the next car, they're already asking for it again. So it just keeps selling itself. It makes more sense.
Well, there you have it. You heard from our dealers. Just remember some of the best practices. Make sure you have one on display so you can demo it. Make sure you're taking advantage of our rewards program, because if you're not taking advantage of that, you're leaving even more money on the table. Make sure you got our POP up on display. And other than that, just make sure you're recommending it.
Now, I know summer just began, but we got to talk about an important category for so many retailers out there, and that is, of course, remote starter season. And now is the time to get equipped to make sure you are ready to take on this 2025 season of remote start. Well, the team at FORTIN is again pushing the envelope and staying ahead of technology, because they are announcing today a brand new application for FD-CAN compatibility. What is FD-CAN? Well, let's find out. We've got their sales manager, Jean-Paul, joining us today. How's it going, Jean-Paul? Tell us, what is this big announcement launching a new unit compatible with FD-CAN?
Good morning, Ben. FD-CAN is basically a new CAN system that the manufacturers have set out to use. Reason being that the closer we get to autonomous vehicle, the more data will need to be processed inside the vehicle. So FD stands for fast data. So they've increased the speed considerably. They've also modified the way they're broadcasting the data within the vehicle. First company to start out with it was actually GM back in 23 on certain vehicles. And that has grown to mostly all their SUVs and pickup trucks.
Wow, so FD CAN is the future from what I hear, from what you're saying here, JP. I mean, obviously, this is a new CAN bus system transferring much more data. You just mentioned that this is affecting 23 and up GM trucks and SUVs. Are there any other applications that we should be aware of at this time that is using FD CAN?
Mazda is also one that is starting to use FD CAN. They're using it on the Mazda 3, for example, where the factory app is not available at the moment. So there's going to be much more manufacturers adopting FD CAN. Like I say, the closer we get to autonomous vehicle, the more the companies will have to go that route.
Well, certainly, JP, this seems like the path to the future. So let's talk about the challenge here. What did FORTIN have to do to come up with a solution? What was the engineering and what is the technology involved here?
All right, Ben. Well, one of the first things we had to do was understand this new language. It's quite a bit more complex than what the CAN used to be. And once we understood the language, one of the things that we had to create was a new module, which we're calling Evo X1. So it's the same connector as your standard Evo 1, only it has a new chipset and new circuit to address this fast data CAN that is now in the marketplace. So again, one of the things with this is that we are compatible with all GM pickup or SUV, including the ones that don't have the push button for lock and unlock on the exterior handle.
All right, so if you're following along, we're introducing a brand new FORTIN Evo X1 kit. This is going to be compatible with the brand new FD CAN technology, which we're seeing in 23 and up GM trucks and SUVs, as well as some 25 and up Mazdas. So let's get into the hardware. Obviously, new circuit, new chip, like you mentioned, alleviates some of the limitations that are currently out there. Let's talk about the actual kit itself. What are the components and what's included?
Like I mentioned, Ben, number one thing that'll be included, of course, is our new Evo X1 that has the ability to deal with the FD CAN. Number two, included in the kit will be a TBX. For those of you that are familiar with our TB Volkswagen, this is the same style key replicator TBX. Why is this one called TBX and not TBGM? It's because it's going to be compatible with many vehicle brands. So we didn't want to brand it specifically for any particular brand. And the other thing that's contained in the kit is your GM8 T-harness. These are newer vehicles, and we all know the challenges of trying to do a wire-to-wire with aluminum wiring inside some of those vehicles. So we created a T-harness that will allow you to do a plug-and-play install in those newer GM vehicles.
All right, JP. So now that we understand what's included in this new Evo X1 kit, let's talk about from a technician's perspective, what do they need to know as far as programming and setup?
Well, Ben, number one thing is the new keys, obviously, in FD CAN are perhaps a little more complicated to replicate than your conventional smart key. So in order to do that and copy keys, locksmiths have been using a type of cradle for many, many years. Well, here it is for us. It's called an R-Link 2. The key will actually sit inside to be replicated, and it'll work in conjunction with your FlashLink 4. So for those of you that already have a FlashLink 4, all you need to add to your tool collection will be your R-Link 2.
So if you're just tuning in, FORTIN Electronics is launching a brand new system, which is now compatible with the new FD CAN, which is faster and definitely what's coming down the pipe for the future. All right, so we talked about what applications this is affecting. We talked about the kit, the hardware, the process. I mean, we got to take a second to talk about the business opportunity here, because obviously FORTIN is once again coming to the table with a solution to be able to service vehicles that you couldn't service before, which represents a huge opportunity heading into this year's remote starter season.
Well, Ben, here's the one thing that we should not lose perspective of. With all these current tariffs and all this kind of stuff going on, the price of vehicles, or new vehicles that is, have exploded. So manufacturers are trying to find ways to cut back so that pricing remains a little bit on the okay side with the consumer. So they're cutting back features like remote start, mainly, if you look at the entry-level GM SUVs and pickups, they don't have that feature. Mazda used to give 2 years worth of their phone app with the Mazda 3. That is no longer the case. If the consumer wants it, he has to pay for it up front. So again, there's a lot of business opportunity. My belief is that as time goes on, manufacturers are going to strip down option, and probably one of the first that's going to get stripped down is probably the remote start and phone app. Thank God we've got all those products, and we've got you covered if you're a FORTIN retailer.
Again, JP, thanks for coming on. Very exciting news, especially for the remote starter industry. Last but not least, you have our curiosity piqued. When are these new Evo X1 kits available?
Well, then, these are currently available at your favorite distributor as far as GM is concerned. For Mazda, we're probably looking at another 4 to 5 weeks for the complete kit. Now, all the information is available on our fortin.ca website. You'll also have all the vehicles that this kit is compatible with as far as the GM is concerned. Speaking of website, Ben, you and I have had the conversation over the years that we were replicating some vintage high-end microphones all in-house. We're ready with this. We are now selling. So the website for that, for those of you that would be interested, is fortinmicrophoneswithanS.com. Have a look, and we're diversifying just like you should as a retailer.
CE Outlook is dedicated to keeping the car audio and electronics industry informed of the latest issues, trends, and product releases. New feature stories posted daily. Visit ceoutlook.com for the latest industry news. Well, when it comes to prefabricated subwoofer enclosures, you may or may not have heard of this brand. It's called King Boxes, and they've been doing this for quite some time. In fact, today they are announcing a brand new application-specific enclosure for trucks, certain applications, but with RGB lighting. We go now to Jason O'Day, who's standing by to talk to us all about King Boxes and their brand new application-specific RGB enclosure. Jason, welcome to the show. Before we get started, why don't you give the folks at home a little background as to who King Boxes is and how long you've been around?
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me. We're excited to be on here and show you guys some of our enclosures. We're very excited to showcase, especially these new RGB enclosures. We're based out of Gaston, Alabama, where we started as a distribution company and thought there was a need for boxes, and here we are, excited to showcase all these new products.
Well, Jason, great to have you on. I noticed I start to see your product all across the U.S. and into Canada, as well. But what you have there is absolutely catching my eye. We're talking about an RGB application-specific enclosure. Let's get it out of the gate right away. Which applications or which vehicles do these new enclosures fit into?
Great question, Ben. So currently we're looking at the Ford 09 and up F-150, and it also fits the Ford F-250 350, and also the 450 on the 17 and up. We also make for the GMC and Chevy 19 and up crew cab, and we also make for the 07 to 18 crew cab as well, 4.8s and 2.8s. Well,
certainly a great application list there and some of the most popular vehicles that we're seeing in our shops these days. Now, you mentioned that this is available in both a 4.8-inch woofer configuration as well as a 2. Let's dive a little bit deeper. What is this enclosure built of as far as materials? What is the finish on the front as well as around? And what kind of volume are we talking about for those that are kind of planning what kind of drivers they can put into these enclosures?
So, Ben, these are a little under 2 cubic feet, braced in the middle with a piece of MDF wood. It is 3/4 MDF all the way around, Has gray leather front panel, a beauty panel over it made out of wood. It's black carpet, silver spring terminals, cups for heavy construction, and it also has ports on the sides so it can hit the door and sound amazing.
All right, so now let's get into the part that really stands out here, lighting, and not just any lighting. This is full RGB lighting. So talk to us a little bit, Jason, about how the lighting panel works, the control, and everything in between.
So this is the part we've been waiting for, Ben. The RGB lights is connected on the beauty panel. The module for the RGB is connected inside the logo. You have roughly 600 choices of color you can go from and options. It's all controlled through an app on the phone, and all it needs is a positive and negative, and boom, you're all set. You get the color that you want.
So there you have it. King Boxes coming to you with some brand new, really good looking illuminated RGB enclosures. We're talking fitments for Chevy Crew Cab, F-150, 250, 350, 450, option in 2.8s or 4.8s. It looks fantastic, Jason. Congratulations on this. I guess the only question I have is, how much is this enclosure, and is it available yet?
Great question, Ben. So this box is retailed at $399.99. And yes, it is available in all styles, 4.8s and 2.8s. And check us out, king-boxes.com. Look forward to seeing you guys.
There's an incredibly strong network of distributors across Canada. And today we're here at CMA Expo to speak with them and get a sense of how they feel about their partnership with SiriusXM.
SiriusXM helps connect our industry because we are reproducing music. We are delivering content in a different way. We deliver hard parts to consumer. They deliver us the content on those hard parts.
It's a great add-on for the head unit sale, and it's pretty much just a natural addition now to offer it to the customer after they purchase a new head unit for their car.
As a distributor of SiriusXM, we all benefit. As partners, they offer and bring to the table the love of music. We're all in this industry because ultimately we love music.
They've been a great partner, and they've actually created a lot of excitement again in the industry.
It really brings the whole industry together, and it's music-based. It's great. You know, that's what we do. We sell music. They provide content. It's fabulous.
In recent news, a veteran of our industry and recognized sales pro, you may have heard of him from his former establishment over at Titan Motoring, Dan BOWMAN now joins us to talk about a new initiative he is launching, and more specifically, how he's really going to be offering important information and training to help develop dealers' sales initiatives. Let's get Dan on. Dan, welcome to CMA Live. First and foremost, congratulations on the launch of this new endeavor. Why don't you give us a little bit of insight as to how this all came to be?
In the past years, doing sales trainings through various trade shows, I saw that there's a real need to help salespeople in our industry better serve their clients, ask more questions, talk to them about the attachments and the upsells so they have a more complete sales experience, which then brings more referrals and more repeat action.
Now, for those of you tuning in and really listening to what Dan's saying, this is a very specialized skill set that Dan has absolutely developed in the, within his career. We've seen him at different trade shows, speak to different topics when it comes to sales. So let's break this down a little bit for those tuning in, Dan. What exactly are you going to be offering other people in the industry to be able to take advantage of?
Thanks, Ben. That's a great question. So we could start with a remote invoice deep dive. So we'll go through 3 weeks of invoices, 3 separate calls, and try to identify sort of the self-imposed shortcomings of the sales process, glass ceilings as far as products, categories that are under leveraged, and sort of the structure of the estimate. How easy is that for the client to digest and then make an informed decision? The next step from there would be doing that for 3 weeks as a run-up, and then spend 3 days in store on the sales floor with the sales staff and management, showing them that they can do it and helping sales tech or tech support the sale on site with them, showing that this can work. And then 3 weeks of follow-up, making sure that they are not running into any roadblocks or falling back into their old sales habits.
Dan, I got to say, I'm a big fan of everything you're talking about. I think in the ever-changing and sometimes challenging market that a lot of our dealers are facing, sometimes it is a great idea to kind of get a set of fresh eyes to examine, your procedures, your processes, and give some perspective and in your case, some solutions. So I'm going to ask the hard question: why should dealers listen to you? Who is Dan Bowman? Why would you be able to help me out as a dealer?
I love this question. For 25 years, I've been on the sales floor primarily. I've done it in different markets, so big dollars to more working class areas. And the thing is, I've been training people at events for about the last 10 years. And it's the people lined up at the end of the class. It's the folks that say the next year, man, I can't believe those few little things that you mentioned. I tried in my shop and it actually does work. So, I've beaten every sales metric at every shop I've ever worked at, and I can teach people how to do it. I love building lethal sales guys.
So if you're just tuning in, Sales Pro Dan Bowman is launching a new initiative to really help support dealers looking to improve sales aspects of their business. Dan, we learned a little bit about you. We know your history. We understand what it is. We're getting a glimpse into the type of offering and services that you're going to offer. What final message do you have for potential dealers tuning in that should really give you a call?
Yeah, thank you. It's absolutely important that retailers not underserve their clients, because if you don't give your clients, if you don't show them the world, they might not come back for a second time. So it is not just for the sake of building a ticket. It's showing them all of the options, explaining the value, and then letting them make the decision. That will make more repeat business, more referrals, more profitable business, and more fun.
So what I'm hearing here, Dan, is you are really getting in there hands-on at their facility, at their venue, and really tearing apart and analyzing certain systems that they have to really help elevate, their processes, if anything. What can one expect to do to start this process, to reach out to you and get more information about how they can get you to help their business?
Yeah, it's a pretty easy process. You can reach out to me at therealdanbowman.com. Send an inquiry. We'll start with a discovery phone call where I find out more about the business. And between when you send the submission and we get on the phone, I'm already snooping around on your socials, looking at the demographics and things like that. From there, we'll try to discuss what the retailer thinks are their pinch points and then develop a sort of strategy to go from there. Because a lot of times dealers have all the tools. They just need to get more comfortable asking more questions. They need to not worry about actually always shooting the number, and then they will see that their sales can grow. And this can be, like you said, I get in the trenches with them, and because sometimes dealers just say that business is not in my market, I'll go do it on your sales floor with your team.
And that's a wrap on this week's edition of CMA Live All Access, sponsored by SiriusXM and brought to you by 5-Axis Innovations. Make sure you check out all our videos at cmanetworks.com. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM with over 150 channels in your vehicle. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand.